there, and welcome to my first podcast. My name is Andrew, and I'm on Instagram at Albanach Knitter, and it's great to welcome you to my first podcast. Albanach is Gaelic for Scottish, and as you probably noticed by my accent, I am a wee bit Scottish. I've chosen to join this knitting podcast video thingy really because I really value the community. I probably started watching knitting podcasts during the pandemic when we were at home for most of the time, and as a knitter it was just good background stuff to have on to enjoy while knitting away. But you sort of get to think you know people, and I really come to value lots of different folks, and I'm sure I'll come to that at some point in the podcast where I can just mention some of the folks that I've really been enjoying over these last few years. But I'm podcasting simply to join in the discussion, to be a part of the community. I think my podcast here is going to generally follow the traditional pattern of finished objects, works in progress, future projects, maybe the odd acquisition. I do buy a lot of wool. Knitting, of course, and collecting wool are separate hobbies. We all know that. But as well as that, I want to show you a little bit of life here in Scotland, and in particular on the Isle of Arran, where I live with my family. I'm married to Tracy, and I have 3 children, 2 of whom are with me here on the island, and we've been here since July 2022, although this is a return home for me, not actually from the island but from a town on the mainland of Scotland, just over the water. You can almost see it from where I live, but I do have family on the Isle of Arran, so it's really great to be home in a very real way. So that's who I am. I'm a big knitter when I've got the downtime, when I'm not at work. And I'll talk a little bit about that, I'm sure, in podcasts that are to come as well. So, that's me. Let's get on with it. Well, there's nothing that quite beats the satisfaction and the dopamine or serotonin hit that comes with a finished object. And just in the last couple of days, I have finished a little project that I was doing probably at the beginning of December, but I finished it just last night with its finishing touches. I've been working on the Fisherman's Cap. It's a pattern by Anne Sinclair, and here it is. It's pretty big because I actually do have a pretty big head, but I'm really proud of this. I mean, it's designed to be, in my design, to be pretty big, because I quite like the sort of slouchy approach to the old hats, and to give a good bit of protection to the baldy head, especially with the wind and the rain that we have round about here. So this is a Fisherman's Cap. Now the Fisherman's Cap is, I say, designed by Anne Sinclair, and anyone can get a hold of this pattern if you join a Facebook group called the Fair Isle Fisherman's Cap page. And you have to go on, you have to pay, I think it's £10 British pounds for the pattern, but the £10 British pounds is a donation to the Waterston Memorial Centre and Museum on the Isle of Shetland. So the money goes to a really good place. And basically the pattern gives you a recipe for the hat, and then various different sort of Fair Isle patterns that you can knit. The pièce de résistance for me was what I completed last night, and it's the tassel. I think I would call this the tassel of glory. It's pretty spectacular. So as you can see, it's pretty big on my head, and that is the way I like it, because you can get this little flap at the back. Now I have to say I wasn't hugely satisfied with the colours that I chose for this hat, because they were a bit sort of experimental and a bit sort of didn't quite match, but it was the wool I had in at the time. So I've made this using wool from Woolly Knit, and I'm just trying to remember what you call it. Worth Mill Yarns from Woolly Knit, who are a supplier here on the UK. I really knitted this as a second attempt, because I knitted one last year sometime from the same pattern, with different wool though, but I made it with needles that were too small, and the wool pattern, the wool effect joining together made it too small for my big head, and my wife stole the hat, so I obviously needed to buy my own. It's quite a unique construction because you start with the fold up bit, and then you turn it inside out with some magic jiggery pokery stuff, and then this bit here is knitted. It goes inside the turn up rib, and then you proceed to knit the pattern from the various bits of pattern that are given in the recipe. And so the tassel, I think, is just fantastic. So I'm really proud of it. It looks really silly, it looks really eccentric, and to be honest with you, that fits me quite well. The hat itself did have an outing when I was out playing Christmas carols with the Arran Brass Band. It was my sort of signature. He's actually here and he's actually wearing the silly hat. So that's it. It's the Fair Isle Fisherman's Cap by Anne Sinclair. I thoroughly recommend it. I have to say that when it comes to colour work, I'm still very much an amateur. I'm still figuring out what the right tension is, how to blend the colours, etc, etc, etc. But it's something I really enjoy. And although it looks, what we say in Scotland, footery, as in fiddly, I find it's something that actually goes quite quickly because it's interesting. It's really interesting, and so it really keeps me engaged, and the patterns, I think, are just beautiful. Really lovely patterns. So if you want to get that pattern, find the Facebook group, the Fair Isle Fisherman's Cap page, and if you go on there's a pinned post at the top of the page where you can find out the details of how to get your pattern in response to sending the £10 donation to the centre, the museum, the Memorial Centre and Museum up there in Shetland. So I really recommend that. Now the second finished object I've got for today is the Jingle Bells jumper. I don't know why it's called Jingle Bells because it doesn't really have very many jingle bells on it, but you'll see it's got that sort of Christmassy theme. And I did start to knit this for the son of a friend of mine. The idea was that it would be finished by Christmas, but that didn't quite happen. I was very busy at Christmas. But here's a little video of some of the knitting of that and the final preparations of that project coming up right now. I've been knitting for around 7-8 years. Started back when my young daughter Katie was at Brownies. It was a children's group here in the UK, and she'd been knitting, learning to knit at this group, and came home stuck and looked for someone to help. And my granny had originally taught me how to knit, but I'd forgotten a lot of it. But that was really the inspiration to get going so that I could help my daughter. But having started knitting, I then discovered just how beautifully therapeutic knitting was. It was something that I could engage with that was both creative but also allowed me just some time to decompress from the pressures of life and work, and found that it was something that really did help me tune out from the challenges. I've been working on this Jingle Bells Arran sweater for the son of a friend of mine, and it's been a real joy to work with. The wool came to me free, lovely Arran wool, and just knitted up beautifully into this very simple pattern but very effective with its colour work. Christmas trees, fir trees around the yoke, and here I am giving it a little bit of a steam. I wasn't overly confident to go ahead and just wet this and do all that shenanigans with it, but I thought, well, I'll give it a little steam and just see what that does, and to be honest, it seems to have done a pretty good job. The worst part of it was just round the yoke there at the top, where all that colour work has taken place. It was a little bit rumpled around the neck there, but really found out that just getting a wet, damp cloth and placing it over and then just sort of letting the steam do its work has been really effective on just evening out the stitches there, helping the stitches relax. And what can I say, I'm really pleased with the end product, and all I have to do now is hope that the young man that it's destined for hasn't grown too much since the measurements were taken just before Christmas. So there we have it. This is the Jingle Bells jumper, designed by Henna Rimmen for Phil Colana, which is a Danish company. Nice simple pattern, I recommend it to you. So, welcome back. So the Jingle Bells jumper, and here it is, all finalised. I have to say I am really quite pleased with this. I mean, some of the unevenness just above where the colour work is here isn't quite as flat as I would have liked it, but I'm guessing that's probably as much to do with my technique as it is for anything else. I have to say, of all the projects I've done, I've just been really pleased with this, the way it's come out. I have knitted a few garments in the past for myself, but as you can probably see, I'm a fairly big chap, and so knitting things for myself takes absolutely ages, so I really enjoy knitting for other people. So I made this Jingle Bells jumper by Henna, I think it's Henna Rimmen, from Phil Colana. I made that just before Christmas and just finished it in the last few days. But I made it with Arran wool. Now I have to say, although I live on the Isle of Arran, it's Arran as in A-R-R-A-N, and we are off the west coast of Scotland in the Clyde estuary. The wool Arran, or Arran weight wool, is based on the island A-R-A-N, which is off the coast of Ireland. Often confused. This is a ball of it here. You can't really see it, but it's just a ball of wool. So I made it with that. Thankfully, this wool came to me from free. A lady from my church had finished with it, and she still had plenty of it left. So I thought, yes, brilliant. This is the ideal wool to start this project for my young friend. His mum actually requested it, which was no problem at all. It was an absolute delight, and I know that this young lad is what you can call knitworthy. I can definitely know that he will wear it. He's worn other things that I've worn, and it's a joy to see him enjoying my creations. This wool from the Arran Mills is just really sheepy, and especially when I was steaming it, you'd actually thought there was a sheep in the room. It was just so gloriously sheepy. Some people say it's a bit pongy, but I love it. You can tell it's been near a sheep. The green bits here, they were done with Worth Mills wool from Woolly Knit, which is a big company here in the UK. The pattern really is quite a foolproof pattern, especially as a great beginner project. If you haven't done any colour work before, if you haven't knit a neck down sweater or a yoke down sweater, it's a great place to start. I found the instructions really easy, which for me is really important. So you start with the neck. Before you put the collar on, you start with the stitches for the neck, and then you begin the yoke. You're obviously sort of stretching out as you go, and then you're into the colour work, which was a little bit fiddly, but as you can see, it's turned out okay, I think. It's turned out alright. Then you split for the arms, so you've got two holes left dangling off just where the arms join, just round here. And then you join up under the arms, and then you knit the rest of the body. And as you can see, there's some little coloured bits at the bottom of the sleeves and the bottom of the sweater before you then add the bottom band there. Then of course you go back and you enter Sleeve Island. I didn't enjoy the sleeves. They're pretty much just plain stockinette knitting round and round and round until you got to the little bit where the feature with the cuffs and then the ribbing at the end there. And then finally you go back and you put on the collar. What I found really bizarre was that it was asking you to pick up the same amount of stitches as you actually cast on in the beginning to knit the collar. And I thought, in my strange, weird wisdom, that was too many. So I've done a slightly different thing on the collar, but I think it's turned out okay. I'd say really pleased with this, and it will be winging its way to North Somerset very soon, where this young man lives. Now, that's my finished objects for the moment. I'll be back in just a few moments to show you some of my current projects. But as I say, I want to show you some of the island where I live and where I work. And we're heading off now to the northeast end of the island, up to a village called Sannox, where I work in a place called the Sannox Christian Centre. So let's watch and see what's happening up there as we show you around one of the places I work on the island. This is one of the places where I work. This is the Sannox Christian Centre in the northeast of the Isle of Arran. This church was built 200 years ago, a congregational church initially, on land granted to the church by the Duke of Hamilton, who was a major landowner on the island. Eventually, sheep were more profitable than people, and so many from our island were cleared to lands in Canada. Not always their choice, but they were sent nonetheless. And this church was built by a congregation of people who eventually, pretty much en masse, left this island for Canada and settled in the Megantic County in Canada and built a replica of this lovely little church over there, but left things rather depleted here on the island, not only the church, but in North Sannox and the glens around here. A sad history, but part of the work we're doing here is rebuilding the community and rebuilding the church and its ministry. So that's one of the things I get up to here on the Isle of Arran. The Sannox Christian Centre is a retreat centre. People come here for rest and relaxation, and one of my tasks each and every day is to gather here in the church, and we have a morning prayer, midday prayer, and occasionally evening prayer, especially when we have guests around. It's a beautiful place to come, surrounded by beautiful countryside, mountains, beautiful beach, and just a great place to be. I'm really spoiled, but somebody has to work here. Hello, girls. Oh, be like that then. So, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that. See, that's where I spend mainly my mornings. I'm part-time as the centre and ministry team leader at the Sannox Christian Centre. I really enjoyed these last few months of working up there along with some of the other staff and welcoming guests from all over the UK and some from all around the world as well as they come to enjoy the beauty of Sannox and North Sannox. So that's half time. The other half of my time, I'm actually a Baptist minister. I work for the Baptist Union of Scotland based at Arran Baptist Church, which is the other half of my working week, and maybe I'll say a little bit more about that in a future episode. But now I am going to show you some of my works in progress and perhaps some future plans that might stretch into the summer, but I don't know where that came from. Well, when I had finished the Jingle Bells jumper, I thought to myself, what I'm going to do is I am just going to knit some plain old, unexciting, straightforward vanilla socks, because there's something quite relaxing about knitting socks. I'd actually started a pair before I started and casted on that jumper, and here's what I'm knitting at the moment. It's just on a fairly simple sock wool, and this pattern is really the Arran Carlos easiest sock in the world, because really that's the kind of level I'm at when it comes to socks. Knitting these on 2.5mm needles, and the yarn is a yarn called Superba Classic by Rico Design, and I bought it in our local yarn store here on the island, Bay Crafts and Knitting or something like that. I'll find the proper name of the shop and put it down in the down there. So socks while watching the telly, while watching other knitting podcasts, just stuck in it forever and ever. And the construction of these is you knit, you begin with the cuff, you knit the whole length, you go all the way up and do your toe shaping, and then you go back and you put in the heel later, the afterthought heel. It's basically the same format as the toes, but you go in and put it on the heel, and then with a bit of shaping and manipulation, the sort of rather pointy heel eventually shapes to your foot. I've made several of these, usually with Arran Carlos's sock yarn made by Regia. I sometimes find that sock yarn a little bit too rough for the feet, certainly my feet anyway. So this is much softer, and I'm hoping it will produce a much more wearable sock. I do have some foot problems, so I can't have something that irritates my feet too much. So hopefully that's what I'm going to be doing until I get these finished, and I'm looking forward to wear them before the winter and the spring is out. So that's my basic socks, basic vanilla socks, using Arran Carlos easiest sock in the world pattern. And I thought to myself, now after knitting all that colour work, I just need something simple, and that lasted about 5 minutes before I then casted on something else, as if I didn't have enough to do. I casted on a lovely little pattern called the Yarn Over Cardigan by my friend Meg, who is over on Instagram as No Frills Knitting. Meg also has a real life knitting shop down in Bristol, and she also has an online shop mainly serving customers here in the UK. You'd have to check with her if she is going to be posting stuff overseas. But this little pattern, the Yarn Over Cardigan, it's actually something I've knit before, and this is the copy of the one that I did before. It's in blue, and you can see more from the back how you start with the thingy-majig here, what do you call it, the collar, and then you knit down the yoke with the yarn overs, and then down to the body, and then the front there, you've got the two little sides and the sleeves. Now excuse us because it's a bit wrinkly because I just took it out of a bag, and actually this is one that I did where I actually made a mistake around about the collar, but I've managed to fix it. And I think it's redeemable, and so I'm going to get some buttons for this. It's finished off with a sort of I-cord binding, I-cord edging, where you can, or something like that. I'll put the details in the thing down below when I get the right terminology. Please forgive me. But this is a really quick little knit. It's very cute. And if you want to get the pattern for that, I don't know if Meg still has it available, but when I got it, she just sent it to me, but I think it was on Ravelry as well. But as I say, I've just casted on a new one of those, just with some very basic acrylic grey yarn, and you can see I've started with the collar, and I've just started on the yarn over yoke. And see, this is a really nice little knit. You can see it starting to take shape there. And there's lots of little people around in my life, either in the family or beyond, and I'm sure somebody will love that as a little gift. But that's the yarn over cardigan, and the details will be down there. As for future plans, I do have some plans to do another fisherman's cap. I know I'm a glutton for punishment, but that is in the plans. I bought some nice wool, which I'll show you next time when I show you this project, in the John Lewis sale. It was a rowan wool, and I got it in the sale. It's usually £10 per 50 grams, or maybe it's even 100 grams, but it was almost half price. So I've got 6 different colours there, which I'll be using for a future fisherman's cap. So that is the plans coming next, and most of the time, I have to be honest, I just knit beanies. I find that most relaxing, and I might just insert a picture of 1 or 2 of my beanies in here. I mainly knit these and then sell them for a very small donation to support some friends who are doing community projects overseas. So that's what I tend to do, just to get the brain to slow down, as I was saying in that little video segment later on. So that is my works in progress, my future plans. You've seen my finished objects, and all I want to say now is thank you so much for watching this far. A special hello to my mum, because my mum is probably the only person who's managed to endure and watch the video for this long. But please introduce yourselves in the comments, say hello. I'm looking forward to getting to know you. This won't be a weekly podcast by any stretch of the imagination. We might be able to get monthly in, or even more than that, because say work does get busy, life does get busy. But please introduce yourself, say hello, and it would be great to hear from you. If you've enjoyed this little first attempt of a video, please leave me a little thumbs up. That would be really, really encouraging. Also, if you feel like it, subscribe to the channel and switch on your little notification bell doodah, and then if I ever get around to posting another video, you'll be notified when that comes up. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm Albanach Knitter, and you can find all my previous nitty creations on that Instagram page. But for now, Martian Lave and Rasta and Bianach Diachut. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Bye bye.